Hello friends! I am so excited to be doing another thriller recommendations video. I have all of these now added into one playlist if you want to binge them, and I am doing 15 domestic thriller recommendations in this video. So if you're unfamiliar with the term, a domestic thriller, to the best of my knowledge, is basically any thriller that involves personal relationships, like close personal relationships. So usually a romantic like couple, you could have like maybe a parent-child, best friends, something like that. So for starters, if you've watched any of my thriller recommendation videos recently, you've seen me recommend this pair of co-authors, but I am obsessed. Truly, I've been binging this couple of authors' books, and that is Greer, Hendricks, and Sarah Pekkanen. So I have three from them. I have one checked out from my library and two that I own. I just started reading these this year, and I've already read 3, and I have the 4th one behind me, and I think that's all they have out, which makes me really sad. So let's go ahead and go through these real quick. We have The Wife Between Us, which is a domestic thriller about an ex-wife and a fiance who is about to marry the man the ex-wife still loves, thus making her the wife between us. So you are reading from multiple points of views in all of these books. And I love how it describes it. When you read this book, you will make many assumptions. You will assume you're reading about a jealous ex-wife. You will assume she is obsessed with her replacement, a beautiful younger woman who's about to marry the man they both love. You will assume you know the anatomy of this tangled love triangle. Read between the lies. I'm gonna leave it at that because honestly, the less you know about these thrillers, the better, even though I want to talk about them even more. But this is so good. I was hooked. This was my first book by these authors. It's still my favorite by just a smidgen, but all of these were 4 to 5-star reads for me. I adored them. This one truly, my jaw on the floor. So if you like a kind of love triangle type domestic thriller, I would recommend this. If you like a friendship kind of domestic thriller, I would recommend You Are Not Alone by these authors. This one involves our kind of central character, Shay Miller, and she's kind of an average woman. She's kind of having a tough time with life, with, you know, she's kind of striking out with romance, she's kind of striking out with work. It's just, things aren't going her way, and one day she witnesses this really tragic event, and this connects her to these 2 sisters who are very glamorous. They have this like exclusive group of friends. They're very wealthy, successful, beautiful businesswomen, and they start to take an interest in her, and she wants their life, but they want her life, and you're gonna find out why. So this one, again, absolutely so good. This one is my most recent read from these authors, which I actually read in a Valentine's Day themed vlog. I'll link it above if you're curious. This is called The Golden Couple by Greer, Hendricks, and Sarah Pekkanen. This was so good. In fact, one of my other recommendations, Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. If you liked one of these, you might want to check out the other one. I just feel like they both center around a golden couple. So in this one we have Marissa and Matthew Bishop, and they're these very wealthy suburbanites. They have the gorgeous home, they have the beautiful child, they have everything, right? Well, it's not as golden behind the scenes, of course, and they are going to a couples counselor or therapist named Avery. So you get to read from the therapist's perspective, which I found fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. And you're seeing the couple through their eyes, and she's really digging into them. She's a very unconventional therapist, you could say, and the more she looks into their life, the more she's not convinced about their golden perfection. And all 3 of their lives are set on this collision course as they start to see each other in these counseling sessions. Again, I wish I could say more, but I want you to go into it with fresh eyes. I want you to just enjoy it to the max. Since we already mentioned Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris, I'm going to mention it right now. This one, I can't believe this was a debut. I truly can't. I still have scenes from this absolutely like just seared into my brain. Like, and I've had some of you comment similar things too. This was intense. This is an intense psychological domestic thriller. It is terrifying. The front says The Perfect Marriage or The Perfect Lie. So we have basically like Ken and Barbie, right? In real life, we have Jack and Grace, and they are just this perfect couple. They are both, you know, gorgeous and beautiful, and he's super successful with, you know, I think he's like a lawyer. He's super successful and she is gorgeous and stunning. She's the perfect cook, she's the perfect homemaker, except the two of them are strangely inseparable. And there's just some strangeness around their relationship. For example, Grace doesn't work, but it doesn't seem like she has time to meet people for coffee. She's very slim, but she makes all these delicious decadent meals for guests and stuff. She doesn't really seem to answer the phone unless her husband's around. Like, it's just they seem a little too close. And this thriller explores what is happening behind closed doors. It's so intense. There's still like scenes from that book that kind of haunt my brain, honestly. Yeah. It's not one of those thrillers that you'll read and like in a year you won't remember exactly what happened. Because this is, despite how much I read, this one, like every bit of it is just absolutely stamped into my brain. Speaking of a new thriller that I read this month that I really enjoyed and I was so pleasantly surprised with, because this was my first book by this author, and this is called That's Not My Name by Megan Lally. It says she thought she had her life back, she was wrong. And in this one, you are reading from two different perspectives. The first one is from this teen girl. She wakes up in the middle of like the night on the side of the road. She's shivering. She's like really hurt. It is not a good situation. The police pick her up, and then her father comes to the station to pick her up, and he tells her her name is Mary, and she can't remember anything. Like, she doesn't recognize him, she doesn't remember her name, she can't remember anything. But she goes home with him because he checks out. And our second point of view, we are following this young man, and I want to say he's like a senior in high school. His name is Drew, and one night his girlfriend Lola storms out of the car, and he is accused of murdering her because after that she's never seen again. No one can find her, there's no sign of a body, like nothing. There's no trace of her, so the whole little small town he lives in is completely turned against him, and he is determined to find her. This, I believe, is considered a young adult thriller, but it really doesn't feel... This is an intense thriller. I couldn't have handled this as a teen personally, but maybe that's not saying much. I'm a little bit of a chicken. But when I say like I was glued to the couch, I read this in one evening. It was so intense. And I feel like at points you think you know where things are going. At least I didn't. It was very good. I was shocked at multiple points, and this was a very, very intense thriller. Really interesting. It was interesting to see both perspectives, where we have this one girl with her father, and then we have this boy who is missing his girlfriend, and you know, he's kind of, it's very interesting. It's hard to describe thrillers, it really is, but that is one that I truly couldn't put down. It kind of gives me summer camp vibes because they are out in a cabin in the woods, so I feel like it's kind of a good spring or summer thriller especially, but I had so much fun with that. Then I have two thrillers by Sandie Jones, who is one of my favorite like bingeable thriller authors. She's never a 5-star author for me, but it's always close, and I always enjoy the very fast pacing, so if you're ever in a reading slump, I would check out Sandie Jones. The first one is The First Mistake by Sandie Jones. So this one centers around three characters. We have the wife, the husband, and the best friend. Or is she? So the wife's name is Alice, and she's really had a second chance at life. Her first husband had passed away, and she was able to find love with a second man. Her job was going well, but she kind of suspects something is amiss with her husband, like maybe he's cheating on her or something is going on. She doesn't feel like Nathan's being 100% honest with her, even though she's been really happy with him. So she starts to confide in her best friend Beth, but that might be her first mistake. I'm gonna leave it at that. All I have to say about this is there was a point in this book where I genuinely like opened my mouth in shock. I was that surprised. It was really good. The other one by Sandie Jones I want to recommend is The Other Woman. The Other Woman is a kind of bridal thriller. So we have a bride-to-be, her fiance, and her mother-in-law-to-be. And the mother-in-law is the other woman. She is completely like controlling and seems very obsessive and like strange with her son. And although Emily absolutely adores Adam and feels like he's the perfect man for her and he treats her super well and they're very much in love, she didn't pick his mother, Pammy. And Pammy she doesn't like Emily. and how far will she go is really the question in this thriller. So this one was a really good one. I think it's amazing for spring and summer, especially because it has like that wedding theme to it, so I feel like anything with weddings feels more spring and summery to me. Speaking of weddings, the very first like contemporary thriller that I read that got me into the genre is this one here. This is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. You'd kill to be on it. This is such a good thriller. It's really like a murder mystery and thriller, but the pacing is excellent. And this is what got me like into these types of thrillers. So I don't know how else to praise it other than I really, really like this book. This is the cover here. And this takes place on a remote Irish island. You're following many points of views. Lucy Foley is she does a lot of points of views usually in her books, but somehow she keeps them straight. Like, you really don't get confused, which is nice because sometimes that happens to me with other authors. And this one you're following the bride, the plus one, the best man, the wedding planner, and the bridesmaid. All have a secret, all have a motive. One of them is a murderer. So this kicks off on the island. You know that someone is murdered. You're kind of having like flash forwards to the future, and then you're like reading the story leading up to this moment where you know someone is murdered, a body has been found, you don't know who, and you're reading from these different perspectives leading up to the wedding and this event. And chilling. I didn't see the ending coming whatsoever. The fast pace, like jumping around from different points of views, the drama. Lucy Foley does like, I'd say like very like kind of spoiled rich people drama very well, and this really went with it. And the stormy like Irish island, super creepy. This next one is The Things We Do in the Dark by Jennifer Hillier. This involves two timelines. We have our present day timeline with Paris, who is married to a celebrity husband, and she is found in the bathroom with her husband's dead body holding a razor covered in blood. So she's not shocked when the police take her in for a murder charge because that doesn't look very good, obviously. The interesting part though is that that's not even what worries her the most. It's the unwanted attention that worries her the most because she has a past that she's been looking to hide for many, many years. So our other storyline takes place 25 years earlier, and our main character, Ruby Reyes, also known as the Ice Queen, was convicted for a murder in a very similar manner that Paris is now being charged with. And she knows who Paris really is, and she is threatening to reveal this. I thought this one was really good. I need to look more into this author and what else they've written because I really enjoyed this thriller and it's the only one I've read by them. So if you have recommendations, let me know. But this was a very interesting like dual timeline thriller. One that I read also in my Valentine's Day reading vlog that's linked above is I Did It For You by Amy Engel. Now I want to preface that this is definitely a slower burn. This is more like mystery thriller. Keep that in mind, but it is very good. This is the cover here, as you can see why I picked it for a Valentine's Day reading vlog, because look at that. So this one involves a family-centric thriller. We have a lot of dealings with grief and small town dynamics, and in this one our main character Greer, she's coming back to her small hometown after many years. 14 years ago, Greer's older sister Eliza was murdered as a teenager. She was like 17ish, 18ish, and she and her boyfriend were brutally murdered. However, 14 years later, now into the future, Greer is back as an adult and there's been a copycat murder. Now the question is this actually a copycat murderer? Is it the same murderer? We don't really know. And in this one, it really explores grief, small town dynamics. She forges a path with a very unlikely ally, which I found to be very interesting. The ending for this, I was so emotional. I was so emotional. If you're looking for like a very good, emotionally driven kind of thriller and one where you can really root for the main character, who is definitely flawed. Greer is not a perfect character, but like you see where she's coming from, I feel like, and she definitely has her good and bad points like anybody, and I just really enjoyed the look at how grief kind of explodes and like ripples throughout a community. I thought that was very interesting the way the author did that. I thought the mystery itself was really good, and then you do have the kind of thriller element, which is just this looming fear of the copycat murderer who is out there. You don't know what's happening. Are they going to continue killing? That sort of thing. So if you're someone who is interested in that kind of thriller, I found this to be a really beautifully written like kind of chilling, suspenseful mystery thriller. The Sister-in-Law by Joanne Ryan. I read this for a recent ARC vlog, which I'll link above, and this one, I almost DNF'd it in the vlog, if I'm being totally honest. It's definitely like a slower burn. You get some thrills kind of off the bat, but then it's a little slower in the middle. But the ending, oh my goodness, I don't even know what to say. I was so gobsmacked. So The Sister-in-Law just came out in January, and we have our two main characters. We have Megan and Emily. So Megan has just lost her husband in a really tragic way. I think she's like in her 30s, I want to say. So of course this was pretty unexpected. She is grieving, and while she's at her husband's funeral, she meets his sister, her sister-in-law, Emily, who she hasn't met before. And she's interested in learning more about her husband's life. Like, he wasn't super close to his family. Her sister-in-law is very much grieving as well, so she invites Emily into her home because she's kind of struggling at the moment. And Emily kind of becomes more and more a part of Megan's life, kind of taking over her home and like just warming into her life in ways that she couldn't have predicted. So this one it's very interesting. I really, really enjoyed this thriller. I'm really glad that I continued. Like I said, a little bit slower in the middle, but overall I gave this close to 4 stars rounded up, and I really did enjoy the dynamics with this one. It's definitely a very interesting, you know, couple-centric, sister, like close family, also dealing with some of the dynamics of the marriage, of course, and it was just so fascinating. Then we have A Killing Cold by Kate Alice Marshall, which was a recent book of the month pick for January. Oh my goodness, this one almost did me in. This one involves a whirlwind romance. Our main character Theo meets Connor, and they fall in love. They get engaged very quickly, and she is going to meet his family for the first time at this very luxury, remote, like kind of how do they describe it? Like an isolated winter retreat, which his family owns. His family is very wealthy. So they've been together for 6 months. They're going to Idlewood, which is this exclusive winter resort that the family owns. And not everyone's happy she's there. Not everyone is receptive or thinks that she's good enough for Connor or whatever. She's also receiving these threatening text messages that start right before she comes, threatening her to stay away from Connor. And while she's there, she also makes a discovery, which actually is spoiled in the summary, so I would skip reading that part of the summary if you are interested and you don't know it. But nonetheless, this is a very quick read. It is less than 300 pages. I really couldn't put this down. I thought this was a fascinating read. It is a perfect, chilly, atmospheric winter thriller. And it's just, I mean, it is like the definition of a psychological domestic thriller in my opinion, because you have both the dynamics between Theo and her fiance Connor, who are still kind of learning to know each other in some ways because they've only been together for 6 months. And then you have all of the family drama and interactions, which are very high stakes and interesting, let's put it that way. So I very much appreciated and adored that thriller. Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. I feel like this one makes almost every recommendation video that I can find a way to put it into, but it is one of my favorite thrillers of all time, and I will not apologize for that. So, Rock, Paper, Scissors. We have a married couple whose marriage is really on the rocks. They are struggling. It's not going well. So it's kind of like a last resort. They decide to take like a weekend couples trip. One of them wins a trip to this kind of like remote wintry area. They're going to be staying in this building and having kind of like an isolated like little couples retreat and hopefully reconnecting. This is the idea. What's really interesting about this is that every anniversary the couple exchanges traditional gifts. So like, you know, paper, cotton, like those different kind of anniversary gifts. I don't know. So they have traditional gifts like paper, cotton, pottery, tin, and each year Adam's wife writes him a letter that she never lets him read until now. So it's 10 years of marriage, 10 years of secrets. When I tell you this one truly, like, you could have knocked me over with a feather. I was that shocked. I'm still shocked by this thriller. I read this like 2 years ago, and just thinking about it makes my brain just go, wow, okay. Master of her craft right there, Alice Feeney, like absolutely crazy. Next I have The Soulmate by Sally Hepworth, and this was a little more slow burn, I will say, but well worth it. A very interesting look at marriage, betrayal, what couples will tolerate and won't tolerate, and this involves our main characters Pippa and Gabe, and they recently moved to this beautiful home that's like right on the coast where like this like cliffside you can kind of see on the cover, and unfortunately this is a place where a lot of people will go to take their own lives, but Pippa's husband Gabe has a really big heart, and he has been able to, over the last few months, talk some people away from the edge of the cliff and save lives, which is amazing. Until one day when the victim wasn't savable, and Gabe is just devastated, which you would imagine would be a normal reaction to seeing something like that. But Pippa finds out later that Gabe actually knew the victim, but he neglected to ever mention this to her, which is kind of odd. And she starts to dig into their marriage, and it was a very interesting look at marriage, betrayal, what couples will tolerate, won't tolerate. I found this to be a super interesting discussion on marriage and the concept of soulmates. It was a really good thriller in my opinion. It takes place in this like sleepy coastal town, so the setting was really great, and I really enjoyed this one. This one is called Every Vow You Break by Peter Swanson. Oof, this one is a really crazy wild thriller, so keep that in mind. This one involves our main character Abigail, and this is about a dream honeymoon gone wrong. So basically Abigail is getting married to Bruce. He is a millionaire. He is like this perfect guy. She is so excited. She never expected to be in this position where she'd be marrying like her dream guy and a millionaire. She has her bachelorette party and she ends up sleeping with someone else, and this guy won't even give Abigail his name, which is really weird. She writes it off as a mistake, which, okay, very questionable ethics right there, but she writes it off as a mistake. She goes through with the wedding. She's thrilled to be married to Bruce. They go to this honeymoon on this like island or this like luxury retreat kind of thing, and it's like, I mean, there's like spas, there's pools, it's like beautiful, right? And that mysterious stranger that she slept with is there. And now she's concerned, is he a stalker? And she can't exactly bring it up to her new husband because she might have to explain certain things that happened. And so she's trying to handle this like stalker situation on her own. This thriller really goes off the rails. It is quite crazy, but if you're looking for like a wild time, I couldn't put it down, so I wanted to include it on this list, and it's definitely a dream honeymoon goes wrong. The New Couple in 5B by Lisa Unger. This one came out early last year. I really enjoyed it. I've been reading a ton of Lisa Unger since, and I'm really enjoying her work. And this one involves a couple who gets a lucky break, and it's, you know, it's like a windfall for Rosie and Chad because they're barely making ends meet when Chad's uncle dies and he leaves them his like lease at this like apartment, and they end up moving in there, and it seems like their luck has changed. But Rosie is really unsettled because there are cameras everywhere. The doorman is always present. It seems like there's very high security and it's very like intense, and she starts to think that this building has more secrets than it's letting on. On top of that, there's this history of gruesome crimes that were committed at the building, and one of the neighbors turns up dead. So Rosie is rightly panicking, and this one kind of follows her and Chad's relationship and also this like mysterious building that they've just moved into. So I really enjoyed this one. And then last but not least, we have The End of Her by Shari Lapena. I really enjoy this author's work. I think I've pretty much enjoyed everything I've read by her, but this one involves our main character Stephanie and her husband Patrick, and they are the proud parents of these colicky twins. And although Stephanie is extremely sleep deprived and struggling as a new mom, she is convinced she has everything she's ever wanted in life, a happy marriage, these beautiful babies. She's really excited until Erica shows up, and Erica is this person from Patrick's past, and she claims that Patrick's first wife was murdered by Patrick. And it wasn't like an accident like it was reported to be. And Stephanie starts to just absolutely like just mentally break down. And it's very interesting. it's very, very interesting, especially as Erica starts to present more and more information and things like that. And we're also trying to figure out, you know, what's Erica's motivations and all of that. So I found this one to be a very thrilling, really good, like, domestic suspense read. That's everything for me today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this thriller recommendations video. I would love to know what domestic thriller is your favorite. I'm always looking for recommendations from you guys because you give such good ones. Thanks for watching, and if you're interested, I do have my thriller playlist above if you want to watch some other recommendations videos. My name is Amy Marie. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you guys in my next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I do post new book content every week. Anything in the mystery genre, ranging from cozies, murder mysteries, thrillers. If you like anything with like a mystery at the heart of it, you'll fit in really well here. You will. So hopefully you'll hit subscribe, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye!